Let me ask you this. When I mention movies that are musicals, what comes to mind first? West Side Story, Chicago, Les Miserables, Sound of Music, La La Land, a bunch of Disney movies? Those are usually the ones that come to mind. You know, the movies that define what a musical is. Well, what if I would tell you there is a film out there better than these? One completely out of the blue, and one that actually may even be a better musical than these films as well. Balancing so many genres efficiently in such a short time, it's a shame it isn't taken as seriously as you would expect. So what film could I possibly be talking about? You have got to be kidding me. Today, we're going to be talking about South Park. Bigger, longer, and uncut. So let's get started. Released in the summer of 1999, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, or the South Park movie as I'll be calling it, follows our titular boys Stan, Kyle, Cardman, and Kenny, who have to save Canadian comedians Terrence and Phillip from execution after their controversial film starts a war between the US and Canada, to prevent Satan and his boyfriend Saddam Hussein from taking over the world. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy plot, but nothing too out of the ordinary for South Park. Similar to films like Beavis and Butthead Do America and The Simpsons movie, it essentially takes the formula and characters of their respective TV shows and expands it to a much grander scale with higher stakes and more action. But the South Park movie still goes above and beyond compared to other films of its kind. South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker doing an excellent job of bringing their cartoon characters to the big screen. But why is that? That's where the musical aspects of the film come in, connecting very well with the plot overall. Unlike most musicals where the songs are overly serious and grand, the South Park movie songs are much more silly and humorous, but also connecting very well with the themes and ideas of the film. On the surface, South Park seems to be crude, edgy, and immature, but diving deeper into this world, more specifically this film, we see plenty of deep ideas and themes that stay true to American society even over 27 years later. So let's talk about the film itself and the songs throughout it, and what makes this film so special and one of the best animated films out there. The film opens with the song Mountain Town, sung by Stan, as he goes across the town of South Park and meets up with his three friends and shows the town in all of its, well, glory, I guess. You can already see early on that this film is much bigger than just any other episode of the show. The backgrounds are bigger, there are more background characters moving about, and more angles as well. Even if you're unfamiliar with South Park, the opening does a good job with bringing you into this world. This film does feel like very early South Park though. It began production during the show's first season and was released during season 3's run. Because of that, it does have slight differences compared to the modern show. Butters and Randy have very little involvement in the film. Chef, Terrence and Phillip, and Saddam Hussein are big parts of the narrative, and Cardman isn't as evil as he eventually becomes. But either way still holds up arguably even better than the first 3 seasons of the show, fitting right into later seasons of this classic animated series. Anyways, the boys go to see Terrence and Phillip Asses of Fire, where the two comedians just swear and make fart jokes the whole time, while singing our next song, Uncle Fucka. Terrence and Phillip were made as a joke to represent what haters and critics of South Park thought of the show. Just annoying, cheap-looking characters swearing and making gross jokes. Asses of Fire is what critics would expect the South Park movie to look like, with this song being a perfect representation of the shallow critique of the show. Unsurprisingly, the adults hate the film but kids love it, with the 4 boys encouraging others to see it. The kids swear constantly in Mr. Garrison's classroom, being sent to Mr. Mackey's office where their parents are called and the kids are forbidden from seeing the film. But they don't care, and go see it anyways. And after that, Kenny tries to replicate one scene from the film by lighting his fart on fire, but instead lights himself on fire and is rushed to the hospital, ultimately dying after Dr. George Clooney replaces his heart with a baked potato. The parents are furious, knowing that the Terrence and Phillip film is behind it, form Mutters Against Canada led by Kyle's mom Sheila. At school, Mr. Mackey teaches the kids a lesson in the form of the song It's Easy, okay? It's not too special of a song, just pushing the message of not saying swear words but to use other words instead, but fits with the message of the film. As Kenny enters hell and encounters Satan and his abusive boyfriend Saddam Hussein, Sheila and Mac escalate the conflict between Terrence and Phil further by helping start a war against Canada. In the most iconic song of the film, the Oscar-nominated song Blame Canada, Sheila and the rest of the parents of South Park decide instead of taking responsibility for their poor parenting skills, instead decide to blame Canada for everything instead. A fun way of showing how many adults blame the actions of others instead of themselves. Stone and Parker, knowing this from experience firsthand, as South Park was immensely controversial when it premiered, and still is to this very day. Close enough after that, we get the second most iconic song of the film. Cartman, frustrated at Kyle's mom, begins to once again sing the song, Kyle's Mom's a Bitch. First appearing in the season 1 episode Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo, the song is grander and bigger than before, and much more effective as well considering the conflict Sheila has caused. Although after this film her presence in South Park greatly diminished as the people she was critiquing slowly went away, this film shows how much of a threat she could be. A classic Cartman antic that wouldn't end up well for him considering he got a V-chip planted to him to stop his swearing. Two of the best, funniest, and catchiest songs of the film, back to back. Ambushed on Conan and captured, Terrence and Philip are set to be executed as the war between America and Canada escalates. Satan and Saddam Hussein's return to Earth seems inevitable. So Stan, Kyle, and Cartman ask the question, what would Brian Boitano do? In the form of the song, what would Brian Boitano do? A reference to the very first South Park shorts, this simple song leads to the boys beginning to form their plans to rescue the two Canadians. Meanwhile, back in hell, Stan sings his own song as well, Up There, about his plans once on Earth. Although on the surface being a song about taking over the world, it shows the internal struggles Satan faces with his relationship with Hussein as his desire to be with someone better and to be happier in life. Satan has a pretty bad track record when dating guys, often leading to his biggest problems in life. But through this song we see that he's not just a heartless monster who desires destruction, but wants someone meaningful by his side. And to wrap up this trilogy of songs, we have La Resistance, sung by the kids forming the titular movement, along with featuring reprises of Blame Canada, Up There, Uncle Fucka, Mountain Town, and What Would Brian Boitano Do? It's a fairly standard song parodying most musical songs, more specifically songs from Les Miserables and from the Disney Renaissance era, which serves as the inspiration for most of the songs in the film, and surprisingly, hold up just as well as many of those classic songs to this day. If you're a massive South Park fan like me, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more individual film analysis like this. Also, if you want to see me talk about animation, whether it's like Western animation or anime, be sure to comment below. I'm very willing to dive into that world if you guys are interested. But anyways, let's get back into the video. All of those songs appeared in just the first half of the film, but the second half though, has very few songs whatsoever and focuses much more on the conflict of saving Terrence and Phil before it's too late. This South Park movie, just like other animated films based on shows, is extremely short, clocking in at a little over 80 minutes, so everything moves pretty quickly even with the many songs of the film. The second half focuses on Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and original character The Mole trying to save the Canadian comedic duo, the conflict between the US and Canada, and Satan and Saddam Hussein trying to reach Earth. There's nothing too complex in this part of the film, and so we focus on the more comedic aspects of the film. Rewatching this film once again for this video, there were plenty of jokes that you completely forget about because they're just an onslaught of jokes throughout, not slowing down for a second. Jokes big or small, whether you've seen them before or are hearing them for the first time, hit hard even decades later. The Emancipation Proclamation joke still remains a classic.
Yes, soldier. Have you ever heard of the Emancipation Proclamation? I don't listen to hip-hop.
Anyways, let's talk about the last few songs of the film and the final parts of the film as well. Back in hell, Satan is getting fed up with Saddam Hussein and his constant annoying antics, leading to Hussein going into the song, I Can Change. A song about, well, how Saddam can change. You know the whole time through he's not going to change. You've seen his actions throughout the film, and even if you haven't seen his other appearances in the past and future of the show, you still know he's a one-dimensional asshole who won't change. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the boys try their best to make it to Terrence and Phil before the duo are electrocuted to death. There's a big show going on for the soldiers, however, many of which are composed of the men of South Park, and alongside the dog that can flip and Winona Ryder. Big Gay Al emerges in a grand fashion singing the song I'm Super. There's nothing too special about the song overall. It's just used as a distraction for the boys to get closer to freeing the Canadian comedians. And that's all of the songs in the South Park movie. But we still have some time left in the movie. The show gets interrupted by a surprise attack from the Canadians, leading to an all-out battle between the two countries. Some of the most impressive animation on South Park, this battle is one of the most visually entertaining things I've ever seen from South Park even decades later. with things escalating even more once Terrence and Philip are killed and Satan wreaks havoc on Earth. But Stan and Kyle cause Cartman to curse so much that his V-chip malfunctions and he essentially goes Super Saiyan and attacks Saddam Hussein. Satan gets fed up with his boyfriend and throws him back to hell, impaling him to death, I guess. Throughout all of this, Kenny was an enormous source of help for Satan, so Satan gives him one wish. Kenny wishes for everything to go back to normal, and in one final act, removes his hoodie for the first time, revealing his face and true voice, and says goodbye before going to heaven, being voiced by Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hills Mike Judge. And in the final scene, the town of South Park comes together and sings Mountain Town one last time, living happily ever after. At least until the next episode of the show. So what is so special about South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut? Aside from being a very entertaining and funny movie the whole way through, it tackles some pretty interesting societal themes that still holds up to this very day. Censorship and parents not taking responsibility for their kids are the two biggest ideas of the film, with Matt Stone and Trey Parker showing how problematic these things can be and how sometimes adults can be more dangerous than their kids themselves. During this time period, parents across America were blaming shows like South Park for corrupting the youth and making society more dangerous, when in reality it was just a work of fiction that most kids shouldn't have been watching in the first place, but still were because their parents were too oblivious. While most of this movement died down during the early 2000s in favor of more popular topics at the time, with how prevalent social media is and similar problems emerging from the 90s, with parents blaming everything on the internet instead of again taking responsibility for their kids. This generational problem is bound to repeat itself in the future, so we're sure to see this into the future as well. And seeing the results of this, unnecessary censorship and suppressing First Amendment rights doesn't fix any of this in the long run, and just causes more frustration for the future. This social satire holds up tremendously to this very day, and combined with the amazing comedy of South Park, makes this one of the best aging films from the entirety of the 90s. Although the South Park movie was made so early on in the show's lifetime, it still holds up very well, even more than some episodes and seasons that would come out a year or two after this. This film is important in the show's history because, given basically unlimited freedom, it showed that Matt Stone and Trey Parker can create a comedy of enormous success and popularity, along with being widely acclaimed as well. It has the show's heart and soul that makes it so unique, and allowed the two to show their musical talents as well, as we'd see in this show, Team America World Police, and of course their Tony Award winning musical The Book of Mormon. The grand scale of the film really helps bring things out a bunch, but even with 28 seasons and hundreds of episodes after this film, this movie is one of the key standouts of the whole series, holding up to this very day. Maybe it's a guilty pleasure movie of mine, or maybe because South Park is maybe my favorite show, but South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is a certified masterpiece and perfect movie in my books. An animated film that excels at everything it strives for, the hilarious and catchy songs of the film, and the non-stop comedy make this film a thrill to watch whether you're a fan of South Park or not. A great comedy and also amazing musical, the South Park movie is a film I would say is slightly underrated in the film sphere, as you wouldn't expect someone to say the South Park movie is not only a masterpiece, but maybe the best musical of all time. But I, for one, will stand by that statement no matter what, even if everybody else would disagree with me. South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is a true classic film that's a standout animated, comedy, and musical film. One that hits just as hard on rewatch as it does the first time you watch it. Although you won't hear this basically anywhere else, this is maybe the best movie musical out there, and one that will really shift your perspective on the genre as a whole.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video to the very end. Once again, if you haven't already, which you should, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this in the future. If you like this video, I have plenty of other videos similar like this. Be sure to click one of these videos up here as well. And also, be sure to stay tuned for more videos just like this. But anyways, you guys, that's all I have for you guys this week, and I hope to see you all next time.